Annecy's Animation Film Festival is full of surprise, full of guests, and today we have a surprise and a guest, but also, we could say, a legend. He won't like it, but actually he's laughing about it. We have the amazing luck to have with us Eric Goldberg. Hello, Eric.
Hi.
And many thanks for being here in our little room in Annecy.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being there. Actually.
No, thank you for having me.
Okay, you win.
Okay.
It's, well, my first question is it frequent to have drawn your own shirt?
No. But I have to say my wife, Susan, makes my shirts. She finds the material. She's made me shirts for every day here at Annecy. So, I'm a lucky guy.
And they're all Disney's like shirts?
Most of them are Disney shirts, yes.
Amazing. So those are absolutely unique and maybe the most rarest creation of Disney.
I think you're right. I think, these are all one of a kind.
I'm going to ask you, let's say, newbie questions for the whole generation that is looking at us. But how long have you been working at Disney's, Eric?
I started at Disney in 1990, May 1990. No, tell a lie, August 1990.
Do you remember what was the project you started on?
Aladdin was my very first Disney job. I came in and was told I was going to be doing the genie, so which made me very, very happy. And it was when the rest of the studio was finishing up Beauty and the Beast. So I was on Aladdin developing the genie and some of the other characters for a year before the rest of the crew jumped on.
And actually the genie is one of the most amazing characters of the Walt Disney, the way he moves, the way he animates each scene. It must have been an amazing load of work to reach this.
Do you know something? The genie was fun. The genie just gave us so much freedom to create, and a lot of that came from Robin Williams' ad-libs, but also, one thing leading to another thing leading to another thing. So, for example, I went to all the recording sessions with Robin Williams, which was so much fun, they had to take me away because I was laughing too hard. But anyway, there were things that Robin would say that he'd know I'd pick up on. And so at one point he riffs that he doesn't believe Aladdin is going to use his third wish to set him free. And he goes, yeah, right. And John and Ron, the directors, didn't know what boo-whoop was. And I said, that's Robin's shorthand for telling a lie. It's Pinocchio's nose growing. Can I please turn the genie's head into Pinocchio? We own the character.
We can do this.
It's in the movie. And that's the kind of freedom, that extra thing that Robin gave us the opportunity for.
People don't know precisely, either I don't, how a voice is shaping the character with the animator, and this is a collaboration more than dubbing, actually. Can you, you just told us how it was with Robin.
Well, we record all the voices first before we animate. And we do that whether the character is comedic, whether the character is reading the lines straight, but we always record first, because then we can listen to the actor's vocal nuances and try and reflect that visually in the animation. So in the case of Robin, he spoiled us for choice because he gave us so many takes and they were all so funny that John Musker and Ron Clements and myself would have transcripts of all of Robin's takes, including the stuff that came in between the takes. And we would go through and yellow highlight it all and then compare notes and sit around and laugh. And the ones that we all agreed on got in the movie.
So thanks to Robin Williams, there might be a few different versions of Aladdin, actually.
Well, it's interesting you say that because for the last Blu-ray release of Aladdin, we did something called the Genie's Outtakes. And John and Ron and I really wanted to do something with all of Robin's outtakes. And, he recorded about 16 hours worth. Okay. And when Robin passed, we got the opportunity to do so from Disney Home Video. So I sat there and listened to all 16 hours, picked the ones I thought were funniest, and storyboarded them, and they're a DVD and Blu-ray extra on the last version of Aladdin.
Working with Robin's voice and the genie is something you did quite recently, I think.
92 is when it came out, 1992. Or are you talking about the okay.
The most recent
the
work
most recent
on the genie.
Working with Robin's voice. Actually, it's not the most recent of working with Robin's voice, but
okay.
I can't tell you about that.
That must be a birthday surprise, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, that was when John and Ron were working on Moana, and they weren't ready to bring the crew on yet. So I had time to actually go through all this material, and I presented it to various people, including John and Ron, and it was hard to keep it short because there was so much material. My first cut, I think, was about 15 minutes, but we eventually whittled it down to 7. So.
It seems you were about to give us a secret you cannot give us, so I won't insist on this. But can you tell us more about this crazy year we are in? Because it's the 100th birthday of the studio. It's like unprecedented. It's like amazingly heavy to understand that a studio has been reshaping our world since a century.
I know, it's absolutely incredible. And yet, for somebody like me who loves all the animation all the way dating back to 1923, it's not like, oh yeah, I remember that old stuff. It's still present for me. Every single day, classic animation, and especially Disney classic animation, is present like it was just made yesterday. It always seems so fresh and so beautifully done. It's timeless. And so, on the one hand, it's amazing to think it's been 100 years, and yet Walt and his crew built these films and these characters to last for decades. And so it doesn't seem like I have to cast my mind all the way back. I'm still watching Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. I'm still watching, 101 Dalmatians. I'm still watching all of these things all the time because I love them so much.
It's funny because you used the word timeless, and actually the short that was presented on Annecy's Animation Film Festival opening ceremony, the title is timeless because it's not Once Upon a Time, it's Once Upon
a Studio.
A studio,
yes.
And what a studio, actually. So, 100 years of a studio and almost 30 years for you with Disney's. What would be the most amazing memory at Disney? It cannot be just one, I know, but if you had to share a few ones or just one.
I think there are several. I'm starting to think about all of them now, but going back to Aladdin, it's the first time I saw anything I worked on with a live audience. And that was amazing because I had no idea what to expect. My background was in television commercials, and the most I would get would be my friends in London saying, "Oh, saw your job on TV last night, it's great." But I never had the experience of actually working on a big budget Hollywood film, through Disney's. And we had a work in progress screening to benefit the Museum of Modern Art in New York. So it had some pencil tests, some storyboards, some color, and the assembled audience were all New York luminaries. We actually had Martin Scorsese in the audience,
Okay. Pretty nice.
And I got to shepherd around Al Hirschfeld, who was my artistic inspiration for so long, to actually have him sit next to us and watch the show. So, it was an amazing night because I've never heard live laughter like that ever connected to any of my work. And that was astonishing. And you realize then just how far-reaching the Disney films are, that they have so much power and they reach so many people, and you don't really realize it until you're in it.
I guess you have experienced screenings here in Annecy. Do you remember your first one?
Boy.
On which movie was it?
Oh, I'm trying to remember.
Or maybe not the first one, but one you can recall as...
I can remember one I don't want to talk about.
So let's not remember that.
Let's move on.
But I guess you can talk about the what's to be in Annecy.
I think being at Annecy is great because you are, first of all, surrounded by people who love animation as much as you do. And that's always wonderful because we have something in common, and to be able to talk to students and talk to filmmakers, that's great. That's absolutely terrific. And yes, you can see first-time, films that you may not have seen before, and that's also part of Annecy's history. So I think being here and being part of it is very good, and I'm honored to be here.
Well, we are honored to have you too. Is there something a secret you can tell us about Disney? Maybe something that happened on Aladdin's.
Okay.
Something crispy. Something.
Something crispy. Okay. Yeah, I used to have French fries when I was animating. Something crispy. Okay. When John and Ron wrote the part of the genie in the script, all they wrote were generic archetypes. In other words, they wrote the genie as a game show host, as an evangelist, as an army sergeant, and he would turn from one character to the other. But when we got Robin in the booth to record, out came all the celebrity impressions, which we did not expect. And aside from them having to scrape us up off the floor with a spatula, we have to use this material. We really didn't expect it. We knew Robin could do it, but we really didn't expect him to be so generous and inventive with it, for our film. And so we went back to Burbank with all those takes and just started putting stuff in, including all the celebrity impressions. There's one line that we wrote about the rules of the wishes, and the line was, "No substitutions, exchanges, or refunds." And in the film, we chose his Groucho Marx impression to actually do that. No substitutions, exchanges, or refunds. But he did it about 50 different ways with 50 different characters. So you can see him doing it as W.C. Fields. You can see him doing it as Mr. Rogers, who was a children's show host. You can see him doing it as, 20 different people. Peter Lorre, John Wayne. They all started coming out just for this one line. Yeah. And that is really one thing that is astonishing about watching him work, is that brain is so fertile and his talent is so quick. It was just fascinating. And like I said, we were spoiled for choice, about what we were going to put in the movie.
It's amazing. If I'm not wrong, Aladdin's was a turn in technique. It was the first 3D animated film, wasn't it?
No, hand-drawn, completely hand-drawn. The things that were computer in it were the tiger's head cave. That was computer.
The moment Aladdin's falling in the cave right after Jafar...
Okay,
this.
all the moving around inside the cave. The cave is three-dimensional, okay, but the characters are hand-drawn.
Yes.
And the carpet is a hybrid of hand-drawn and CG, you know. So it was at first animated in rough on paper, and then they pushed and pulled the carpet model to match the hand-drawn animation.
Okay.
But the very first usage of computer animation in a Disney animated film is in The Great Mouse Detective, in the interior of Big Benny. You know, they chase, Ratigan and Basil chase each other around the gears in the clock, and all of that is computer animation, first time.
Okay. And talking about the techniques precisely, you've seen a lot of changes in the past 30 years. How do you take it? How do you see it? How do you see this actually new chapter for the studio after the hands? The computer is king. What is it going to?
I think it just opens up more storytelling possibilities. It allows you to do certain things that you could not do necessarily with flat artwork. But they both have their strong suits. You know, for a character like the genie, it's far more successful to do him in hand-drawn animation because he's just morphing into everything in 3 or 4 frames, you know, and that kind of artistic control that you can have, you know, is easier to do in the hand-drawn form of animation. For something like a character thinking and you realize they're nervous and you see their eyes darting around very subtly, that is much better in CG. You can actually, you know, feel those minimal movements very, very well. So they both have their strong suits in storytelling, you know, and in CG you have the ability to have a subjective camera. In other words, you know, they used to fake it with the multiplane camera back in Walt's day, where they would create several layers of depth and move the camera through it, and it would start to, you know, become out of focus the closer it got to the lens. Well, that was an amazing way of fabricating what it would look like if you were shooting something with a live action camera. But now with CG, you can put the camera anywhere. You can fly the camera around. You can do all sorts of things with a subjective camera that were harder to do in hand-drawn.
Tomorrow we'll have in this very chair our dearest Jennifer Lee, that you might know a little, I guess.
I know her a little.
If you had something to tell her before the interview, what would it be? For this century year, for what she's...
I don't think I have to tell her anything. I think she's already great to start with. You know, she knows what to say, and I think, you know, I think maybe one thing that you said is that not everybody might know everything about animation or Disney animation, and so sometimes, you know, just assume that everybody who's watching this starts from ground zero rather than from, you know, a huge knowledge point of animation technique. That might be the only thing I would say, but I think she's fine on her own.
Yes, she is. Eric, I must say this is a real pleasure to have you here. And
Thank you.
Do you have some other projects that you are working on, like as a consultant or as a, I don't know, an advisor or an animator? Is there?
Yeah, I'm still on the drawing board.
Yes.
You know, so, in fact, I've got Zoom calls to do and work waiting for me when I get back to LA.
So it's not vacations in Annecy. It's just,
no, it's not actually.
It's a huge standby in a lot of work.
But that's all right. You know, I would rather have the work. Let's put it that way. And I feel very fortunate that I've had for all these years a job that I love. That's a big deal for a lot of people. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. And so, you know, I can complain, but really it's It's great.
I guess you love your job, but your job loves you too.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't talked with him or had lunch with him or anything, but maybe he does.
Thanks a lot for being with us, Eric,
right.
and have an amazing time in Annecy. We hope to see you again anytime you want, actually.
Thank you so much.